We are in better shape now than we were a decade ago, and that did not happen by accident. It happened because we messed up a lot and learned from every bit of it. Today, we're going to share a story with you and tell you exactly what we would do if we were starting over today so you can start applying them right now. Let's dive in. So many of you know we run multiple businesses. We've got 2 kids, a third on the way, and it probably seems like we've always had this health and fitness thing down, that it's always been easy. What many of you don't realize is that we have struggled for a pretty large portion of this journey. Truth be told, that's where you learn the most, and we have been all over the spectrum when it comes to protocols. I actually grew up the skinny kid. I played sports and was constantly bullied by my quote unquote friends. I was 88 pounds going into high school, and up to that time, I had been playing baseball, basketball, football year round. And I actually stopped playing football going into my freshman year because my friends, again, unquotes, on the team were such assholes to me. I couldn't do a whole lot to protect myself. Again, I was 88 pounds. So as a lot of you can probably guess, getting bigger and stronger was high on my to-do list. This mindset was programmed into my brain at that early of an age. And like many of you, I had specific numbers I wanted to hit. So 6'2", 225, for whatever reason, that's always been the number. That's always been the frame. No idea where those numbers came from. I just told myself that's what it was going to take. So going into high school, by the time I graduated, I put on close to 100 pounds. I was right around 185 senior year and into summer. So I continued my pursuit of 225 into my early 20s. My family and I actually called this Operation Fat Josh. And ironically, by the time I hit 227 pounds, I had certainly put on some fluff. I honestly didn't even realize it at the time because I had a single ab line. So I told myself I was okay. But looking back now, I was definitely a bit too thick. So I did cut 50 pounds from that point. I thought cutting back to 200 would do it for me. It really didn't. So I ended up having to cut all the way back to 177 pounds for that even 50-pound fat loss. It was lighter than I was in high school, but I did have turtle shell abs. And over the next several years, I continued to just bounce back and forth between 180 and 200 pounds. I was looking for that spot that would make me happy, but I failed because I was focusing on a number rather than the end result. So why am I telling you all this? Because it took me into my 30s, and probably the last couple of years, to be honest, to realize it's not about a number. Hitting a number doesn't make you a bad motherfucker. Being strong, loving what you see in the mirror, being mentally resilient, those are the things that make you a warrior. And the path to those things is so much more enjoyable than the path of just chasing those numbers. So today we are going to give you the shortcut, the secret sauce, our outline regimen of what we would do today if we were starting over right now, as business owners, as parents, as bad motherfuckers re-entering their prime. So I want to break this down. We've got our 5 pillars. Just very simply, basically what we've learned, what we're doing right now, how we got to this point, but just giving the listeners that basic overview of if you're starting from scratch, if you're busy all the time, if you've got kids, you're running around, obviously time is very important. You need to get a very high ROI on that time. So what can they be doing? What are we doing? What would we recommend doing from the start? Diving right in, starting over today.
Yeah, and I want to just highlight the fact that, yes, it has taken us, 10, 11, 12 years to get to this point.
15.
We've been in a good place for the last, I'd say 5 or 6 maybe. That doesn't mean all of that time was wasted. And I think there is, you touched on this a little bit, there's such power in the struggle and when you're trying to figure stuff out and experiment what works for you. But if you can kind of expedite that process a little bit more and actually get to where you want to be, that is really our goal here. So it's not to say that you're not going to struggle and you're not going to have hiccups along the way, because you are. But if we can just make it super crystal clear what's going to get you from point A to point B, even with the hiccups, much faster than going from, hopping around from fad diet to fad diet and just really feeling stuck and unmotivated and like you just can't get it together. These are our top recommendations.
And that's the thing. It's not a challenge. It's not a program. It's a lifestyle. So the things we're talking about now are what we realize you need to build into your lifestyle, because as life ebbs and flows, you're going to have easier times. You're going to have more stressful times. when you can keep just a basic regimen in place, it becomes so much easier to maintain, because the little things that throw you off don't derail your entire quote unquote program. Because if you're not following a training program, you're just off it. There's no gray area. If you're not following your diet, you're just off it. You failed for that day or that week or that month or whatever it is. When it's a lifestyle, there's different levels to it. So there's levels of maintenance and there's levels of progression. Understanding the season of life you're in, controlling the controllables, and having a simple strategy to get to that point is what makes all the difference. Because it does, at the end of the day, what you look like, what you feel like, how your life looks in 10 years has nothing to do with the training program you did for 6 months a decade ago. Has nothing to do with the diet you were on 3 years ago.
Or honestly, has nothing to do with the number on the scale. So like
in most cases, some are very, very obese, and that's going to play a big role. Some people you need
the scale to drop, but don't get so set on that number like Josh did, and don't get so set on, like for me, it was never really about hitting a certain number on the scale. It was more so about, I just wanted to look toned. I wanted to look like the girls on Pinterest at the time who were like these fitness models and bodybuilders, and I was not doing the things that are required to get to that point, because I thought you just had to do hours of cardio and, you know, random workouts that involved throwing around some weights and a lot of ab work. But my point here is, don't get so focused on the outcome that you lose sight of what the true process needs to be. So let's talk about the process.
Well, even to that point, and then you can dive into the process first, but you also have to kind of go through this mental cleanse or this social media cleanse. You mentioned following Pinterest models, and that's what a lot of people are doing on Instagram and YouTube and all these other social platforms today. It's regardless, you need to align with those who are actually similar to your shoes. If you are following the diet and following the workout program and trying to get to the physique of this bodybuilder, of this influencer who all they do is take steroids or whatever they're doing and, you know, work out and eat and whatever, they're not running around with 5 kids. You need to align with the people who are more in your demographic. If you are easily influenced and persuaded as far as what you should be doing, what you should feel like, what you should look like.
Yeah, if you can't separate that, which some of you can, some of you, I follow people who have absolutely no common ground as far as what we do and as far as what they're doing, but I can separate that. I understand that there's a difference. So if you have that objective viewpoint, fine. Many of you do not. Straight up, you do not have that.
And I've fallen into that trap as well. It's a negative pull. Oh, do I want to get on some sauce? Do I want to get on some testosterone so I can elevate to that point?
Yeah, you are being influenced whether you realize it or not. So make sure you are surrounding yourself both in person and online with people who you want to be influenced by.
The things you watch, read, listen to, anything you consume is affecting your mindset. It's affecting your life in a lot more areas than you may realize. So if we dive into this, again, we're going to keep this under the constraints of our current lifestyle. So if we were starting today, our health regimen today from scratch as parents, as business owners, I think that's something you guys are going to relate the most to. It's not when we were in our 20s and going through college and, you know, pre-career and working out for 2 hours a day.
What did we do in our 20s when we didn't have kids? I really wonder that on a daily basis. Like, what did I do with all of my
45 minutes to that gym.
True. I drove literally 45 minutes to a gym because it was a special powerlifting gym.
And I liked Montanari Bros.
And I worked out for 2 hours and I drove home. So like literally 4 hours of my day was surrounded by gym time. Anyway, I digress.
All right. So from the top, let's hit it with training. Starting today, knowing how limited I am on time. And these are things I am doing right now and seeing some of the best results I have seen in a very, very long time. So I shit you not, 20 to 30 minute workouts, about 4 days a week, plus a couple days of some type of cardio. I don't even care what type of cardio that it is. In my mind, if we're mixing it up, because a lot of times, you know, if you're running every day, running gets easier. So you have to run faster, you have to run longer after a certain period of time, due to that adaptation. So if you're doing a hike or running or swimming or biking or whatever it is, just 2 days a week, get your heart rate elevated into zone 2, spike it a little more.
Here's the
for
thing.
Some of them.
A lot of you have very specific body composition goals. We know cardio is important. It is not as important as strength training for body composition goals. So if
you can even argue at this point longevity. There's a lot of stuff coming out now.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not important, but if you're truly crunched on time and you're like starting from ground zero and you're not doing anything right now, I would rather you do the strength training than the cardio. If you had to pick, and we're talking about like ground zero at this very moment, you cannot do both. Do the strength work, focus on that first. Maybe you get to the point in a couple months where you can add the other thing in after. But a lot of people do it backwards. They focus on doing hours and hours and hours of cardio and feel like they need to run
inefficient.
And just do that solely to lose weight, which yes, it will help. But if you're not strength training, you're not going to be happy with how you look when that weight comes off.
You're going to be getting smaller at your same proportions. So you're going to be losing muscle and fat as you're losing weight because you're not using strength training to retain that muscle mass. So you will become a smaller human. The number on the scale will be lower, but your body's going to look the same, just a smaller version of it, which is not going to make you happy.
So recap, 3 to 4 days per week, maybe an upper lower split. Maybe if you're doing 3 days, you do a full body split. Strength training, 20 to 30 minutes max. PSA, we have programs in the app that literally are that. The Move program and you could even argue Build could be done in 30 minutes. I'm not sure Physique is these days.
Physique and Physique Plus are more like my old school training programs, and they do still work. Like if you have the time to do those, that's great. Those are more preference. Those are what I have been following prior to the last 4 months. So I've been posting a little bit more about my training and more to this alteration, and people are like, well, which one are you following? Are you following Build still, or I'm sorry, Physique or Physique Plus still? I'm like, nope. So I've been experimenting with this specifically for the last 4 months. I don't just put programs out. She doesn't just put programs out. We experiment with these, we try them, we do them ourselves and make sure they're going to deliver optimal results in the amount of time we tell you it's going to take. So I have been playing with this on myself, experimenting on myself for the last 4 months, and I fucking love it. Like I said, if I have to be in and out in 20 minutes, I can get the entire workout done in 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. My volume is way down, but it's still extremely effective. I'm getting stronger faster. My body composition is improving. I'm being way more intentional as far as how close I am to failure. So I'm at 1 rep short the first 2 or 3 sets. Sometimes that third set goes all the way to failure. So I'm recovering well because there's not a ton of volume, even though I'm going to that point. So this is an unnamed new program that will be in the app very, very soon because I've checked that box. It passed with flying colors. It will be in there. This is the end of July is when we filmed this podcast. So very, very soon after this point, you guys are going to start seeing what I've been doing. That'll be in the app soon.
And in the meantime, Move and Build can cover that base for you. But,
absolutely.
If you want a free month of the app, go on our website. There's a code there. You can see what that is and download it today. All right.
One thing I want to add, and it's not, I mean, it's technically training, but it's not training in this aspect, but mobility work. And that is something that is going to be much more important to some of us than others, I would say, because I am very, very, very immobile.
And I'm very, if you quote unquote, naturally mobile.
So as long as you're training, going through full ranges of motion, and you already have an optimal movement pattern, this is less necessary for myself personally. I have always been very, very tight. This is something I have not prioritized my entire life. I am getting back into, this is one of the things I'm streaky with. So if I don't make, an accountability system, which we'll talk about here in a bit, I'm not sticking with it. So I'll go for a couple of weeks. I was doing it in a very inefficient way and just not seeing the progress I wanted to, or just, running out of time at the end of the day. So I don't do it. But a couple of days a week, I would say, just getting in some type of mobility work.
Well, that's why I include it in the Move and Build programs in the warm-up. So the warm-up is disguised mobility work. So if you are somebody who does struggle with getting it in and having time for that as a separate entity from your training, 'cause it's like, I just don't have time for all these pieces of the puzzle, do it in your programming. It can be included in your programming, and it's something that you should be working on within your programming, even if it's not quote unquote actual mobility work. Just getting through those full ranges of motion under load is going to help you tremendously.
And just to that point real quick, I know we're throwing a ton of stuff at you guys, and even just following along on social media and all your Fitfluencers, there's so much that you could be doing. And that's why this episode is really designed to break it down for you into some core essentials. If you're on our daily email list, there was one I sent out, I believe, last week, saying that I would genuinely recommend, rather than training for, 20 or 30 minutes, 4 days a week, I would genuinely recommend all these pillars you dedicate 10 minutes to. 10 minutes for training, 10 minutes for meal prep, 10 minutes of mindset work, 10 minutes of a movement, walking outside, going for a light jog, whatever it is, and then 10 minutes worth of habits throughout your day. If you can dedicate those 60 minutes to each of those pillars, creating that balance, you're going to get more of an impact as far as your overall health and your well-being, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, versus just training 60 total minutes.
You're going to feel really good when you do that. So that is great advice as you go through the rest of this episode. If you don't have time to do even the minimums that we're recommending, do what you can and watch how much that adds value to your life.
Do what you can. Just check all these boxes. So let's dive into nutrition. And we disagree on this one.
Yep.
So I'll start with mine, and then you can elaborate on yours and why you think a little more is necessary. So me personally, starting over, I would not be tracking calories or macros. I would be focusing specifically on nutrient-dense whole food options for at least 90% of my intake, and that's not an exaggeration. Massively, massively, massively reducing the highly processed foods or processed foods in general. And I don't want to say in general. So single ingredient foods, let me scale that back. As many single ingredient foods that you can combine into other things, but you are taking each singular ingredient. So when we do enjoy, it's in true moderation. We talked about this in a previous episode, not keeping a lot of the fun stuff at home, but when you crave it, you go out for that fun night of ice cream. You go out for, whatever it is you and the kids want to go enjoy because you're all craving it. It's been a minute. It's not something where you have a little bit every single night. That will fuck you faster than you can believe. I noticed that within a week if I've been off. But when I am dialed in, when I'm single ingredient for 90% of my foods and prioritizing enough protein. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to eat a bunch of whole foods and it's going to be, oats and rice. Like that's not it. You need to have a ton of protein. So when I'm focusing on that, that's when I feel really good. My digestion is way better. My symptoms in dealing with Barrett's esophagus in the past have always been better when I'm primarily doing that. So as of right now, I actually haven't been tracking for the last 6 months. I'm getting stronger faster. I'm staying lean while building muscle. I look and feel great because I'm aware of what I'm eating. And again, the highly processed crap is down to almost nothing. So that adequate protein intake, I believe, is the key to being able to do this intuitively. And I am probably saying this from a place of quote unquote privilege, I guess, because I've been doing this for so long that I can take that step back.
You have a baseline. And
so why don't you take it?
That's why I'm glad we disagree here, because it's not that your way is wrong. I'm not saying that that's incorrect, but there is more than one way to go about this. Mm-hmm. And that's with every pillar we talk about. But for me, I think if I were to have to start over today and I didn't have that baseline of knowledge, I would need to track at least calories and protein for that knowledge base. When I started tracking macros, I actually started to see progress for the first time in years since I started my fitness journey. So prior to tracking, I did all of the fad diets that didn't include tracking. I experimented with those things. I tried to do clean eating and maybe saw a little bit of progress, but that never amounted to anything significant. So it was just wasted time for me. It didn't amount to where I wanted to be, even after years of clean eating. So tracking has a purpose when you implement it the right way. I think a lot of people implement it in the way that it is a fad diet, and that's just a terrible way to go about it, because then it becomes very restrictive. You get super obsessed with the numbers and it's just not enjoyable. But when you use it as a tool and you are mindful while you're tracking, focusing on portion sizes, figuring out what makes up a good meal for you, it can just open up a whole new world. And eventually you can stop tracking. But if I was starting over from scratch, that is what I would focus on.
I agree. You definitely need that base. I'll also say that, and this is just how I notice my body responds, and it could also be because I've been tracking for so long, I have a good idea on portion sizes. But I'm in a phase right now where I would like to just slowly build for the foreseeable future until I say, you know what, I'm not lean enough anymore. I need to do a little mini cut. I just want to focus on getting stronger. Kind of like, I guess the phase would be maintaining at this point. Is it still on? Let's check it. Nope. Yep. Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties again. I don't know why it likes to switch over. It asks me about a different mic, like randomly in the middle of these episodes. But I guess you can call it gaintaining, where I'm slowly just trying to get stronger and build a little bit, build a little bit, build a little bit, rather than this up and down roller coaster of, okay, I'm going to bulk and then I'm going to cut. I'm going to bulk, I'm going to cut. So I'm eating, quote unquote, very clean, single ingredient foods, but I'm eating a lot of them. Like I will have a 12-ounce steak with dinner, steak and rice, and I'll throw some peppers and onions or whatever on it, mushrooms. And it's a ton of protein. It's a ton of calories. But I'm not waking up feeling bloated. And I'm still seeing, I'm visibly lean. I'm getting fairly vascular at this point without tracking. So going about it that way, I think a ton of protein, single ingredient, ton of calories, at least at this point, is allowing me to kind of take it to that next level. And I guess before we move on from nutrition, just kind of giving some guidelines on certain things to strive for. So typically we try to aim for a few days a week of fish. Lean, grass-fed, organic, whole meat is something we include. Did I say whole meat? Red meat?
You said whole meat, yeah.
I did, yeah. Red meat. Usually I'll say 3+ days a week. Because I know for me, sometimes you'll skip the steak and you'll go with some chicken or some chicken meatballs or whatever. But I'll typically have some type of red meat 3 to 5 days a week. Again, it's lean, it's organic, grass-fed. Fish, we said 3 days a week. Mm-hmm. And then just a plant at every single meal. That's kind of a non-negotiable for us.
Every single one.
Every single meal. And to clarify, a plant isn't just a fruit or a vegetable. Mm-hmm. Anything that grows from the ground. So whether it's oats, whether it's rice.
Chia seeds,
nuts, legumes. We go quarter points for herbs. So every 4 herbs and spices that you put onto something is 1 point being one plant. And most times there's a lot more than one plant per meal. So if it's a salad, we could have 8 different plants on that meal. But that's improving your fiber diversity, micronutrient diversity. Fiber is so overlooked in our diet.
If you're eating mostly whole foods and aiming for one plant at every meal, you're probably very close to hitting your fiber intake for the day without even paying attention to it. So it's less, I have to go find a fiber 1 bar or like something with high fiber. Like, no, you're going to feel crappy doing that.
Especially those tortillas that are 25 grams of fiber in a single tortilla.
Yeah, those aren't going to make you feel too good. So add it in slowly, add it up slowly, and you're going to feel really good.
Lots of protein, planted every meal, fish a few days a week, lean, organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, red meat a few days a week.
Drink your
water. Very basic, guys. And in your last sentence, you said you're just not thinking about it. These things just happen. You just hit your fiber. You just hit your protein. That's the point of what we're going through today, is making sure these are things you don't even have to think about. On to the next one. Let's dive into mindset. So my big 3 for mindset: 10-minute meditation. At this point, I'm doing them before bed. Gratitude journal. So I'll go through every day. It'll be today I feel, and then calm, strong, confident, determined, grateful, happy, something like that. Intentions: I will be present, I will be compassionate, I will be productive. And then last one, I am grateful for. I am grateful for my family being happy, healthy, safe, and together. I am grateful for our beautiful home. I am grateful for the ability and opportunity to learn and grow. So a little more than just gratitude, but just kind of clarifying where I'm at, setting a baseline, and then most importantly, so if those of you who just want to blast through this, just do 3 things you're grateful for. Write that down. And then my cold plunge. This is not something I do for physical benefits. This is something that I need for my mental health. And I think we just talked about this in a previous episode, so I'm not going to dive into that. I was on a streak I was not enjoying. That's why we got the chest freezer, so I could get it down a lot colder. And it makes a big difference. When I'm doing it, I notice. When I am not doing it, I notice. So that's, for me, that's the earned dopamine. That is the mental boost, the mental lift. I need those things. And
I think those 3 things, it's important to highlight, like, all together. Maybe take 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of your day.
Well, the 10-minute meditation is 10 minutes. Well, gratitude journal is probably
if somebody's not doing a full 10 minutes and they're starting from scratch.
Yeah, you could do that for 2 minutes to start, minute to start off, 2 minutes to start off.
These things don't have to take long throughout your day to implement, and that's the point.
Cold plunge and gratitude journal are 5 minutes total. I'm in the plunge at 37 to 39 degrees for 2 minutes. Gratitude journal, just literally 2 minutes writing that down. So less than 5 minutes for those 2. Anything else you would add to that?
I think those are probably the 3 easiest things you can do. And even if you're not doing a gratitude journal, even if you're thinking those thoughts throughout your day, like I'm going to
disagree. You have to speak it out loud or write it down. It's got to come out into the world.
I don't know.
Being aware is a great first step, but you got to put that shit into the world.
I agree. But I think as a first step, like, I will catch myself having these moments of gratitude or spotting something and being grateful or just taking the time to change my mood throughout the day. So I think I would argue that that's a good first place for someone to start if they don't want to just sit and brain dump.
To your same nutrition point, I would say that's the rule you're applying with this. Because you
Fair.
have meditated, because you have done the cold plunge, you are aware of mindfulness.
True.
That's something you've already built upon. The average Joe has not built that practice in, so they are not stopping throughout the day. Because I do the same
True.
thing. I think it's because I'm doing the journal, I notice that moment. When we are all together on the couch playing, the dogs are with us, all the kids, I'm literally having that phrase through my mind. I am grateful for my family being
You're
happy,
more
healthy,
present,
safe, and together. So you're able to pull that. So I'm going to double down and completely disagree on this one. Say it out loud to a spouse, to yourself in the mirror, to your dog, 3 things you're grateful for, or just write it down really quick. And then you will graduate, and you're still going to do those things, but you're going to graduate and realize the benefit throughout the day. When those things happen, those moments happen, you're like, yeah, this is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one, movement. And this is one that I feel like it's gone back and forth, where everyone was anti 10,000 steps because that was this golden threshold.
Well, I don't think they were anti. I think they just were highlighting the fact that there was nothing spectacular,
which in and of itself made them anti 10,000 step. The way they would project it to get the views and to get the clicks and to make it hooky.
You don't need to walk 10,000
steps is useless. It's actually blah, blah, blah. For one, why are you giving people a reason to not move more? Shut the fuck up. 2, there is a greater threshold when you hit 10,000 compared to 8,000 compared to 6,000.
Yeah, more is not going to hurt you.
It's also the pendulum is swinging back this way now, where people are realizing, well, there really is no upper threshold in regards to movement and overall health. The more that you're doing, the better you tend to be overall, mentally, physically, emotionally. Again, so just moving more has more benefit. So for myself, starting over today, I would use that 10,000 benchmark as a non-negotiable. This is, a number we don't want to let keep sliding. Again, it's going to make you feel better. It's going to actually, like we have at least 1 walk a day. It's usually 2 walks a day. That's without the number in mind because, again, this is now ingrained. So we're highlighting that. Because we move more, we feel better. So we do the morning walk with the family. We do the evening walk after dinner with the family. Those are 2 easy steps. And we're moving throughout the day, usually going for a run and then a workout and, breaking up the sitting down at the desk working. So for myself, I don't know if you have a different golden number. I would say 10,000 steps per day is the benchmark.
Right now at my peak of running, mine's higher. Mine's probably 12,000, just because I'm getting a lot of that from my runs. So I want to make sure that I am still moving a lot more throughout the rest of the day and not just being a blob outside of my run. Yeah, no, yesterday when we did our hike and all that, and working in the yard with Kai, that was 22,000 steps. So very rarely am I down to 10. But that is the minimum. 10 is,
that is the minimum.
That is the baseline.
And lastly, we'll wrap it up with habits. And it's kind of, I don't know what the right word is here. What we've discussed to this point, a lot of these are built in as habits. The reason we have created habits as its own separate pillar is because it does need to have its own distinct formation. So what I mean by that is we know what we're doing for our training regimen. We know what we're doing for our nutritional protocol. Habits, yes, some of those things are habits, but habits is going to be its own little section here because we can implement things we can do throughout our day that lead to a goal over time that can be outside of training and can be outside of nutrition and body composition. So what I have noticed personally, and I used to call this, or I still do, but I'm hit and miss on these things. But when I'm feeling my best, I've got my King of the Jungle list. It's 5 things I need to check off every single day. So very generally, it could be getting out of bed or waking up and within 5 minutes being out of bed at 4:30. So 4:30 a.m. Gratitude journal, morning cardio, cold plunge, Italian lesson. Most of those things have nothing to do with physical health. Those are just things that allow me to kind of hit my strides, set me up for success for the day. Believe it or not, even the run, it's good to get that cardio in early, get it out of the way. But I'm in an immediate flow state when I get back. When I'm waking up way before the kids, I have time to enter my flow state. So I wake up, drink some electrolytes, go run a couple miles, come back, do my journal, and then that's when I would typically do my the daily emails. I have daily and weekly emails for SDE. It's Evolved Health. You guys can subscribe on the site. No strings attached, no sales. We'll give you like promotions and stuff when we're doing stuff, but it's not a marketing email chain. It's daily tips, insights, things you can do. I just feel much better and I'm in a much more creative state when those things are in place, and the rest of my day is so much more smooth because I do those things. So that's what I mean as far as kind of some overlap with habit into the other pillars, but habits being its own thing. because it's going to be related to some, but there are certainly others where it's still incredibly beneficial to implement.
When you're committing to your habits, whether they're related or not, it's going to bleed into your health goals because you're going to feel good. You're going to feel confident. You're checking off those boxes. That version of you is more likely to go out to the gym when they don't want to. That version of you is more likely to go run in the rain when they don't want to. So when you check those boxes off and show up for yourself every day, it's that much easier to say, okay, I will go train today instead of sitting here and scrolling on Instagram. So that's why it's important. And I think, again, they don't have to be related, but they do directly relate to your success.
They're positive momentum builders. I know I mentioned they're the little things you can do that lead to your goals over time, but it's also a situation where you check a box, you feel really good about that, you're excited to get to the next one, and even the non-habit decisions you're making throughout the day start to improve significantly. So these are my 5 things, check, 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 and throughout the day, I could kind of go do this, or I could scroll, or I could go have this shitty food, or I could make this better decision. And you are more inclined to make the better decision when you already have a set outline of good decisions you're making, and you're going to continue to make those. So when you track this stuff and you're consistent, you're going to notice the best streaks are the best phases you're going to have in life. And it will have nothing to do with the fact that, I was able to check this and I'm feeling really good because I did that. It's because the carryover and the momentum you built made everything else better. And that's really the philosophy with the 5 pillars: training, nutrition, mindset, movement, habits. Building this into a lifestyle makes every other area of your life more enjoyable. It adds value to the other areas of your life, which is one of the core definitions between it being a program or a challenge and being a lifestyle. The lifestyle makes your life better. So those are the things you really want to keep in mind. But that's why we do what we do. We've got the podcast giving you guys the free content. We've got stuff on social media. Obviously, we have freebies on our site. We also have things where if you need more specific help, you've got them. Start with the freebies. Go get the top 5 challenge. That's going to be something we start to talk a lot about more in the coming months or the coming weeks. Just getting you into a routine. Summer is ending. Who knows how on point you've been. I know it's been a weird time just across the world. So getting back to focusing on the little things. Top 5 challenge is 5 simple tasks from each pillar. You just check that box, build some momentum over the next 30 days. You're also going to be attached to just an email drip that gives you a ton of really cool and personalized insights that will carry that momentum and help you make that more exponential throughout the 30 days. So really kicking some ass in those 30 days with that top 5 challenge. We have the app, again, more specific to training. The whole philosophy of the SDE method is included. The app is called the SDE method. So we've got a little bit of everything, but it is primarily a training app. You get access to all the programs that are in there. And again, especially this is like, you have to figure out, am I following this influencer? Is this adding value to me? Is their program, their protocols, their diet, their lifestyle, is this fueling me in the way that I need? This app specifically is for busy parents, for busy moms, for busy dads, for busy nurses, for busy firefighters, for busy police officers, for busy shift workers, for busy fill in the blank. If you have responsibilities and you don't have 60 to 90 minutes a day to go to the gym, these are effective, science-backed workouts that will let you kick ass for a fraction of the cost of coaching. And then coaching is the premier option. That is for those who need the hands-on accountability. They need the hands-on catering and fine-tuning of each pillar directly into their lifestyle rather than doing the trial and error version, which we've done for the last 15 years, which many people who are following us are currently doing. But if you want the shortcut with a coach who has done this, we've worked with over 2,000 one-on-one clients and several thousand more through the app. So if you want that shortcut of, hey, let's have a conversation. Here's where I'm at. How do I get to this point? And then you guys will fine tune a whole lot quicker than trying to go through the trial and error. And this is not your cousin's health coach. This is literally built for you from scratch. We have our own private customized client portal, which once we get your onboarding form after our initial conversation to determine if this is even a good fit, we build every metric that you're going to track into your personal profile. All the questions we ask are built specifically for you in your profile. Your training program, your time available, equipment available, fill in X, Y, and Z variable is built for you from scratch, all in one, put in your portal. That is the premier option. This is literally learning about you, teaching you about yourself. So we're almost more like an online academy than we are quote unquote health coaching. If you've been with a coach in the past, I can guarantee it's an entirely different experience. If you have not been with a coach in the past, this is what coaching should be, but unfortunately is not. It's a very watered down term now, health coaching. But we are here to restore trust in the industry again. And again, if you never work with us on coaching, but you get value from this stuff, that's awesome. Like we just provide different levels. For those who can run with the free stuff, we are happy to continue providing that. Some of you are going to need a little more hands-on with the app, just some general guidance. Some of you are going to need all hands on deck just to teach you about how to do this for the rest of your life and, overcome these challenges and work through certain scenarios. And then we'll offboard you with the tools to continue this for the rest of your life, so you never need a coach again. Different levels to meet you where you are. Either way, we love you. We appreciate you for being here. And with that in mind, I know we didn't start the episode off with this, but if you found something usable from this episode, if you have been listening beyond a few episodes, please just take a moment, leave a quick 5-star review. If you want to share it on social media, tag us. We appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to throw into this one?
Go take action. Don't just listen. Figure out what your action plan is based on this and start today.
Through awareness, we create change. That is the theme of this podcast. That is the theme of our content. Make you aware of certain issues, scenarios, things you can take control of. And through that awareness, you create the change. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
Everything else is linked in the show notes.